joining us at the courthouse, having sat through testimony all day, investigative reporter, co-host, Pop Crime TV, Lauren Conlon. Lauren, thank you for being with us. I cannot believe, Lauren Conlon, that one of the questions that was solicited, testimony from Cassie on cross-exam, was where Sean Combs, Diddy, actually claims that hotel beatdown of Cassie Ventura hurt his career. That's their takeaway from him beating her to an inch of her life. That, hey, didn't you know this was going to ruin his career? Seriously?
Yes, the defense kind of honed in on the fact of her lawsuit as well, her 2023 lawsuit. They asked her on the stand, well, what do you think happened to Sean Combs's career after you filed this lawsuit? There were some objections, but initially Cassie had to testify that, yeah, it didn't help. But that was a pretty incredible moment, Nancy.
Now, I understand that Combs's lawyer is seemingly suggesting that the freak-offs that he,
hmm
Combs, forced her to participate in were simply part of a swinger lifestyle. But Ventura is pretty strong on the stand, stating that a swinger lifestyle is very different than forcing her to be in freak-offs practically every week of their multi-year relationship.
Yes, and Cassie testified yesterday also that she didn't want to be a swinger because she didn't really want to see Combs with another woman. However, today we saw a message exchanged from Cassie to Diddy where she says that she wants to see him with another woman as part of this fantasy. And I'm paraphrasing, but I think a lot of us were like, "Oh, okay, that's not great." And we're seeing a lot of that, a lot of contradictions with the period, with the talk of another woman. And I believe that they are showing pictures of Cassie and Diddy getting off airplanes after freak off weekends to negate the trafficking charges.
Joining me is Sydney Sumner on the case from the very, very beginning. Monitor every single thing that's happening in the courtroom. Cassie Ventura on cross-examination. This as reports of Sean Combs's Tootsie Roll emerging from another alleged sex attack victim. What does that mean, Sydney Sumner?
Well, Nancy, according to this victim, on her fourth outing with Combs, so she had met him in a hotel elevator. They had spent a few nights out together. But on their third night, she left early with her friend without telling him, which apparently really angered Combs. He said, "I don't think you know who I am. People don't do that to me." So the next time they all met up, the situation felt sketchy from the beginning. She got into a car. There were a bunch of big men in that car. She could see used condoms on the ground, women's underwear, and they ended up back at Combs' apartment. She wanted to go home, but he said, "No, I need to stop by my apartment first. You're going to come up with me." He pins her to a bed, and as he pulls his pants down to rape her, word for word, she says she didn't think it would hurt as much due to his lack of length and girth. So she is comparing Combs' penis to a Tootsie Roll. And later in that same lawsuit, she refers to him as Itty Bitty Diddy.
Okay, Rob Shooter, testimony aside, there's really no coming back from that for Diddy.
There's no way that they're coming back from that. And I would guess this is a detail. It's scandalous and we're talking about it, but this is a really important detail and it's very, very easy to be proven. Let's see. Let's see that
Wait,
she can
what,
describe.
Rob Shooter, are you crazy?
No,
What,
let's see it.
are we talking about the same thing? You actually
Yeah.
think that federal prosecutors are going to prove that there's an itty bitty Diddy
They
in
did for
Diddy's
Michael
pants?
Jackson.
That there's
They
more
did
of
it
a Tootsie Roll than a
for Michael
cannon?
Jackson. They did it. Michael
Seriously?
Jackson.
No, nobody's
They
going to touch
did
that with a
that.
10-foot pole. That's not an element of proof, Shooter. What are you talking about?
Well, if they can prove that she can describe Diddy's penis, then that's a really important point for her to make. And so I know they did this in the Michael Jackson trial. Several witnesses described what Michael Jackson looked like. And so I think describing what Diddy looks like is very important. It will prove the point, and hopefully she'll win her case.
Okay, Shooter, you actually made a legal point. You may need to consider that whole PR thing you've got going on. Yes, that did happen in the Michael Jackson case, but I hardly think that the defense is going to broach the subject of Itty Bitty Diddy being in Diddy's pants. Okay, that's a whole nother can of worms. And as is so often when you're trying a case, you learn a lot more information than you ever wanted to. Now, that's kind of funny, right? Right? Itty Bitty Diddy, the Tootsie Roll in Diddy's pants. But hold on, not that funny. Listen.
Discussing their breakup, Combs took her to lunch and had a deep conversation that brought a sense of closure. But when Combs dropped her off at home, he pinned her down and raped her. He says she doesn't believe Combs even noticed her crying and telling him no. After ejaculating inside her, Cassie says Combs calmly got up and left.
Bethany Marshall, Shooter, had a
He's marking
little bit
his
of a laugh
territory
about Sean Combs' Tootsie Roll, but did you hear what came out on the stand with Cassie Ventura under oath? That when they had a lunch to rehash, this is why we're breaking up. He takes her back and, according to her, rapes her and then gets up and walks out without a word.
This is just one more iteration of what he did throughout their entire relationship. Anytime she tried to develop herself away from him or establish her own life, he would send his goonies over. He would break into her door at the middle of the night. He would rape her. He would watch other men rape her. He would debase her. The fact that somebody has pointed out that there's a little bitty itty ditty inside of Diddy's pants, I think that's an interesting twist because he has debased so many men and women. The fact that somebody could actually debase him with reality, it sounds like he was actually not that well endowed, I think it's kind of a fair turnaround as this entire trial is.
Hey, let's see the video of cleanup coming after a freak off at the Intercontinental. They didn't have just a trash bag, they have to have basically a dumpster. They're going down and cleaning out the room after a freak off. They were all part of it, Sydney. That is the gang, the Loose Confederation.
Yes, Nancy. It seems like there were many, many people, whether or not unwittingly participating in setting up these freak-offs. Cassie testified earlier this morning that Combs was very, very secretive about these freak-offs with his staff. They even wore masks to conceal their identities. So Cassie says that, yes, assistants were involved in setting things up. They brought lighting, they brought baby oil, they followed whatever Combs' requests were up until the freak-off began. And from there, Combs kept it a secret. What happened in that hotel
What about
room?
it, Greg Morse? Greg Morse,
Well,
do you wear a mask when
so-
you go to work because you don't want people to know it's you? No, because
But
you're
it's
not
not
doing anything
illegal if I
illegal.
did.
I hope.
It's not a crime if I did. It's not a crime if I did, though. So you
That's not
consensually
even my
have this
point, and
wild
you,
sex party. So I don't understand why
wild
you're
sex
conflating
party,
the domestic
Rob
violence
Shooter.
with the consensual sex party that she says. She literally says, I didn't tell
She had
anybody,
knots
and it was
on her
weird.
head.
I didn't want.
Rob Shooter,
That's
when you were
different.
hearing
Different.
this testimony, knowing Combs as you did as his former PR guru, do you believe it's possible?
I think that Diddy is guilty. I think this video changed everything. I'm in a group text with several people who have worked with Diddy throughout the years. And some people in that text, when this first started, a year and a half ago, we were hearing rumors. Some people that worked for him, not me, but some people still believed he was innocent until that video was released by CNN. That video has changed everything. And what I'm shocked about here, Nancy, is that Diddy is a very cautious, very controlling individual. The fact that video even exists is a miracle. Thank God it does exist. He tried to get rid of it. But the fact that he thought he was so above the law that he could attack somebody in a public hallway of a hotel and get away with it gives us an insight into who this man really is.
Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all of our content where we, in our own way, seek justice.